Thursdays are for Metropol Debrief. A very good evening to you and thank you for tuning into Metropol TV. Ondiro Ganga is my name, and tonight we have a really good show lined up for you. My guest is already in studio with us, Kwame Owino, who's the CEO of the Institute of Economic Affairs. Tonight, we will be discussing the recent wave of job layoffs and job cuts in the country, and we want to find out what exactly is going on and what kind of bag is this and how detrimental is it going to be in the Kenyan economy. The second quarter of the year 2019 has been marred with tough financial economic times. Now, companies are being forced to lay off workers and businesses are being forced to shut down. On this part of Metropol Debrief, the first part that is, we take you through some companies that have had to shed off staff and what triggered these moves. Now, in the recent propounded merger between Telkom and Airtel Kenya, the crescendo has gained attested by a notice signed by Mugo Kibati, who's the CEO of Telkom Kenya, giving a month's notice to lay off 575 members of staff. Having signed a binding agreement to combine mobile enterprise and courier services to operate under a joint venture company christened Airtel Telkom, Kibati avowed that Telkom will discontinue the transferred businesses and must therefore end the employment of workers who are currently deployed in these functions. Now, employees to be affected with this purge are likely to be those who are performing administrative and support tasks. In a statement released to the media, the statement goes to say, in accordance with the provisions of Section 40 of the Employment Act 2007, we have notified the Communication Workers Union, COWU, and sent individualized letters to the staff where applicable, as well as to the county labor offices, giving 1 month notice with effect from July 31st, 2019. And our intention is to terminate the employment of approximately 575 employees on account of redundancy as a result of the transaction, read the memo. Now, this was just one of the companies that had been forced to lay off its staff, Telkom when it was merging with Airtel, and now 575 staff have to be let go off because should the merger take place or once the merger comes into full effect, some of these employees will be rendered redundant rather. And this is not the only bank that has had to shed off some of its employees, or rather the only entity. We've seen Stanbic Bank, which is a bank that operates in the country. It's been forced to let go up to around 200 employees who are facing layoffs under an early retirement scheme. And this is just meant to reduce their payroll cost. Now, employees were given terms of the voluntary retirement plan about 2 weeks ago. The employees were allowed to decide whether they want to go on voluntary retirement or not. And when the management was speaking, they were saying they were accepting applications from members of staff, and they were going to review it, and then they'll see which one to accept and which one to turn down. Now, moving on. Employees' costs stood for the lender at 5.595 billion in 2018, a 3% rise from the previous year. Now, as you can see, it stood at 5.59, which is a 3% increase. Now, in the first quarter of the year 2019, 3.55. In 2018, it was 2.85 billion shillings. So it means the operating cost went high. And this is never good for any employer, because if your operating cost goes high, it just means that you'll be forced to dig deeper in your pocket and you're spending more. And your spending more does not translate to you making more. Now, the CEO of the bank was kind enough and went to expound on the reason why they were being forced to scale down. And here, as you can see, his name is Patrick. He said they're scaling down due to digitization, because the recent wave of digitization is going to render some certain jobs redundant. And hence, because of digitization, they have to reskill their workforce and aim towards efficiency. Now, this is just some of the reasons that the bank was offering as to why it was asking some of its employees to take early voluntary retirement. Stanbic is just the latest bank to announce this, but it's following in the footsteps of other banks which have been forced to take this route. Now, National Bank was forced to fire 112 of its employees in June. Now, this is because National Bank of Kenya is being acquired by the Kenya Commercial Bank, and the Kenya Commercial Bank put its foot down and said it was not going to absorb the managers from the National Bank of Kenya. Moving on, there are other banks also which have been forced to let go of some of their staff. Barclays Bank in the year 2017 had to let go of 323 employees. Family Bank prior to that had to let go of 150 of its employees. Now, this is just in the banking sector, but the problem continues. East Africa Portland Cement, which is the largest firm to announce their retrenchment plan, says all workers will have to go home as competition in the industry and lack of sufficient capital makes it untenable for the firm to operate as expected. Now, the firm went on to say that they spent 3.04 billion Kenya shillings to pay 936 employees in the financial year ended June 2018, a 96% jump from 1.56 billion in 2017. And actually in 2017, they had more employees, 1,265 employees. Now, the firm issued a profit warning for the financial year ended June 2019 after half-year losses widened by 30.7% to 1.26 billion Kenya shillings. Now, the business has since moved on to say that they were calling off the layoffs and they were asking for government intervention. And the CS Industrialization did come forward and had something to say, and he said that unfortunately, as much as they regret letting go of some stuff, they will have to let go of some stuff just to cut on their expenditure. Now, this is nothing new. It's been happening and it keeps happening. The question is, what are some of the reasons that these companies are giving as to why they're being forced to cut down on their labor? And one is credit crunch due to the interest rate capping bill. Banks are not lending out their money, and the cost of money has gone high as it was initially thought it would go down due to the introduction of the interest rate capping bill. Then there's technology, one of the reasons that was offered by Stanbic Bank, corporate governance issues in the case of Chase Bank, National Bank of Kenya, and finally, high cost of production, or rather high cost of doing business in the country. These are just some of the causes that are being listed by these entities. However, there is so much more. The rain did not start beating us today or yesterday. This has been a crisis that has been looming, and now the goose has come home to roost. We want to take a short breather. As you internalize everything that we've just given you, we give you room to reach out to us and talk to us. On social media, our platforms are at Metropol TV KE, at Ndiro Ganga, and at IEA Kwame. So send in your feedback, your thoughts, your questions, and we shall be able to answer to them. If you can't watch us on a television set, also, we are live on Facebook and we are live on YouTube at Metropol TV Kenya. So log on to those platforms rather and follow through with this conversation. Right now, we take a short breather. When we come back, we sit down with Kwame Owino, who's the CEO, Institute of Economic Affairs, and share his 2 cents.